You know me, guys. I like to keep it real. But what if the realness that you're keeping is actually just fake? You know how I am. I stand on what I say. But what if what you're standing on is absolute bullshit? You know how we are on this channel, guys. We're just authentic like that. But what if you're just authentically a dumbass? Now, that back and forward monologue that I just had is things or statements that I often hear online. Now, obviously, you can hear them in person too, but as someone who spends a lot of time online, subjugating myself to other people's opinions that I may or may not be interested in on topics that I may or may not care about, I often hear the I keep it real phrase, the I'm authentic phrase, the I stand on what I say phrase. And I do think these guys, they believe what they're saying is true. They believe they're being authentic, they believe they're being real, and they believe they're standing on what they're saying. But often the time or not, these days at least, they're standing on false statements, takes with no prior information about what they want to talk about. Their realness is used as a disguise for their, let's say, how would you say it? It's used as a disguise for staying ignorant about certain topics. It's easier to say, I keep it real, rather than saying, hey, I don't want to research about this topic, I just want to give my opinion on it, regardless where I'm right or wrong. But they think they're right about it. That is what I often hear about realness. And now the reason I want to make this video is because there was I'm laughing about it now because I found it funny. I didn't really care about the topic. Like, at the end of the day, it's not going to be causing any massive problems in the world. But it was a topic that pretty much a YouTuber was giving. And the topic was, actually, I won't go into the topic. How to deal with animation, that's what I would say. And her take about it was very uninformed. And due to this, the statements were very just, I would say, you could say insensitive. But I would go with they were flat out wrong. That's what I would like to say. That's what I believe. But within the response to the flack they had about the take, it was under the guys, you know the saying, guys, say it with me. They were just keeping it real. They were being authentic. And then obviously when they have to say that they're being real and being authentic, they of course have to say that everyone else is, being fake, just adhering to society's rules. It's like that image of the guy with the puppet strings, bro. They're like, that's you, but that's not me. They're the guy with the image of the guy breaking free from the chains. That's basically what they're saying. My elbows are ashy as hell, but I'm just keeping it real, guys. I'm being authentic here. But yeah, that's pretty much was their response, and I found it hilarious. But also, it got me thinking, because this isn't the first time I've heard some shit about some guy just keeping it real, and then proceeds to have the most uninformed, flat out wrong take. But they were keeping it real, so you can't fault them too much. You can't give out to them too much. You can't criticize them too much, because they didn't know any better. They were just keeping it real. And obviously there's levels to this, because I don't believe that everyone has to have a astute knowledge of a subject or topic before they can talk about it. Obviously, otherwise, I wouldn't be making this video, because I would have to read a 600-page essay on the art of keeping it real and what does it mean to be real. What is realness? I'd have to do all that shit before I can talk about it. At that point, bro, I'm just putting the camera down, putting the phone down. I'm just watching some anime. I'm not doing all that. But I do believe that there comes to a certain point where you can only have so many get out of jail free cards, get out of like I can be real free cards before you are just actively choosing to be uninformed about the things you talk about. And there's nothing wrong with being uninformed about a topic or being ignorant about it. I'd say uninformed about a topic. But when you choose to be uninformed about a topic and talk about it regardless, and then guise it under the statement of I'm being real, you're not being real, you're just being ignorant. That's just how it is. That's what I believe. And I'll just give an example here. I made one up in my head prior to this video where, let's say there's a kid and he's talking about why the sun, why the sky becomes dark. Let's just say that much. And the topic is, and he chooses to say, the sun becomes dark because it gets tired and it turns off like a light switch. Now that's obviously wrong. But if you have like any scientific knowledge, it becomes dark because the Earth rotates around the sun and the Earth spins around at the same time. And when the side of the Earth is not facing the sun, it becomes dark. Pretty much sure that's how it goes. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I believe. At least for now. Man, I hope I'm right about that statement. But you explain that to the kid, and instead of him to say, oh, okay, I see how it is. I understand. My statement was just incorrect, and I think before I talk about topics in the future, or I spread this information about how the sun just gets tired and turns off like a light switch, I should research about it a bit more and ask around and get opinions from people maybe who have more knowledge about the sun and the Earth as a whole and why these phenomenons of night and day happen. He says, well, I was just keeping it real, I didn't know any better. I was keeping it real. Maybe I was a bit wrong, but for the most part, I was being my authentic self. And you could argue that yes, he was. He was being his authentic self. He wasn't pretending to make sure he knew all this information. This is what he genuinely believed. But there comes to a certain point is he going to do this again? And when he wants to talk about the Earth and the solar system and how the world works in general, is he going to say, hey, the clouds, it rains when the clouds become sad, they start crying. That's how rain works. Is he going to say that? And then when he gets corrected, he's going to use the, I was just being real excuse again. And you get where this is going. Like, how many times until a YouTuber or online personality keeps the disguise of I'm just being real before you just realize this guy's not being real, he's just being ignorant. They're just being ignorant about certain topics. And they're choosing to be ignorant. That's the most important bit. They're choosing. It's different if I have an opinion about something and I'm like, okay, I want to talk about it, but I believe, hey, I don't know enough about this opinion, so I won't talk about it too much. I won't go too hard in the paint about it, but I will share what I currently believe about it. And then maybe you choose to do research after or before, or you choose to get an opinion of people who are more informed if they can explain to you why this opinion might be wrong or whatnot. But they go about the topic with the mindset of, I'm saying this and you're not going to change my mind about it because I genuinely believe this. And even if I'm wrong, I only admit that I'm slightly wrong. I won't admit that I'm completely wrong. It's the same shit people do when they make a mistake, and to lessen the blow for them, they apologize like this. They say, sorry if I offended you, if I disappointed you. It's the if that they emphasize. Because saying, sorry that I disappointed you or that I offended you, that's like, you're kind of like, you're making it like concrete that you did something inherently wrong. But if you add the if, hey, it was only if like, we don't know if I actually did it or not. And that's how people like to lessen the blows on apologies. Maybe I should talk about that, but no, for now we're talking about keeping it real, guys. That's what we're talking about. So I want to say you should be wary of people who choose to keep it real or exclaim so much how they are authentic or stand on what they say, because unfortunately there's a stigma of being wrong about something or going back and doing the research, because of course not everyone's going to do research for everything they want to talk about. Now I do think people should do more research about things that are slightly sensitive or have more importance, and if they have a larger audience, because people are influenced by what people say, often or not. I'm one of those people. It was just like lucky that the topic that I was that I was just wasting my time listening to, it was about animation, which is something I am informed about, because I like animation. So I could tell that, hey, this is an uninformed take, but other people might be like, hey, yeah, I agree with that take. So, but for other things, I might have just been the guy who agrees with an uninformed take, takes it at face value, and doesn't choose to do my own research. So you should be wary of those people, and you should look at their other takes, because if every take that they have, they're being real, and then the realness in question is them just going guns blazing talking about a topic, and they happen to never show like their findings, or never show like in the slightly just a speckle of research that they did. No, it says it speaks about that person quite a bit. Now obviously not everything you need to have like an academic or opinion on, or research opinion on, to talk about. Like if I want to I'm not gonna have some like when some guy eats a burger and gives like a food review, like trying the new McDonald's cheeseburger. I'm not gonna be like, did you research where the cheese came from and how the patties were made? Like, no. But the informed take is them actually trying the burger and eating it and tasting it. What makes it uninformed if the guy's reviewing the cheeseburger and he hasn't even eaten the burger. He's only had an air sandwich. That's all he's consumed, and now he's reviewing the new McDonald's cheeseburger. That's an uninformed take about a thing. So, in conclusion, make sure to be informed about people who like to say that they are keeping it real, because they might just be. Do you want to align yourself with someone who is under the guise of always keeping it real, but the realness in question is no research, choosing to be ignorant about topics but wanting to speak on them and speaking on them? Or would you rather be aligned with someone who doesn't always go on a tirade about how they're keeping it real and authentic, but they often have time, they've backed themselves up with claims, or like not claims, with like findings, and they have proof of like what they're talking about. It's just navigating the online space is difficult, so you want to be wary of these things. But in conclusion, I've already said conclusion, but I'll say it again. In conclusion, I was keeping it real in this video. I was just authentic like that, and I was standing on what I say. And if anyone disagrees, I do not care, because I'll never buckle under the pressure of society, and I'll always be keeping it real, because I'm just the most authentic guy online. And that is it.